Hello everyone, I'm Rochelle Chernowski, and this is Shell Point Today for the weekend of August 29th, 30th, and 31st. On today's show, we'll visit with Donn Wright of Royal Bonnet, who wrote a novel based on his own experiences as the headmaster of a boarding school in New England. But first, we want to remind you about Friday's Health Connection presentation on osteoporosis. Shell Point pharmacist Yao Adu-Sarkodie will describe the condition, share about risk factors, and he will also share about treatment options. Yao's presentation will be Friday at 1:15 in the Social Center on the island. And Monday is Labor Day. There is going to be a celebration at the Crystal Room from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. For $14.95, you can enjoy a fabulous buffet selection of ribs, salmon, and chicken with all the yummy sides. Music will be provided by Stan Mlezko. Bid farewell to long summer days as we pause to recognize all that makes this country great. Come celebrate with a feast of food, fun, and music on this great American holiday. Up next, we will visit with Donn Wright of Royal Bonnet. Donn's career has been a real roller coaster. He thought he was going to be an artist, but ended up in advertising and then left that job to raise money for boarding schools, only to later become a headmaster of those boarding schools for 30 years. On the side, he continued to do art and also wrote a novel based on his experiences, though it was never published. Fast forward 20 years, and Donn is at Shell Point. Thanks to technology, it's easier than ever to get a book published. Donn unearths his old manuscript, edits it down, does some illustrations, and you have Cooper Morgan, a novel about a fictional headmaster in New England. Let's meet Cooper Morgan and his real-life alter ego, Donn Wright.
I grew up in Massachusetts, Holyoke, Massachusetts. My dad was an engineer, and he had some 600 patents in the U.S. Patent Office. It was his idea that if he perforated paper, you could tear it more easily. He had to create a market, so he went around talking to presidents of banks, saying, wouldn't your customers like to be able to tear the check out instead of cutting it with scissors? And he made himself a market. The only thing I was really good at was painting and drawing. And I figured that was my thing to do. My mother got wind of this, and she had hysterics. She thought poor little Donnie would starve to death, which is probably true. As a reaction to that, I began to acquire which industry do you make the most money the fastest, and I was told advertising. My first job out of college was at Young & Rubicam in New York City. Big, famous agency. I carried messages around New York City to clients. I did that so well, they promoted me to the mailroom where I sorted mail. I met her at a wedding where she was a bridesmaid. We have a photograph of me going through the line and kissing this doll. Well, as soon as I saw her, I said to everybody, who is that? I lived with two other fellas on an apartment, 14 East 41st Street. That's where we lived. And I said, we have a party every weekend, and we'll put you on the party list. Let me take down your address and phone number. That's how we started off. We've been married for 60 years coming up this September. I did well in advertising, and I was earning a very substantial income, and I was not enjoying it. And I thought, who do I know who I envy, whose job I envy? And I thought, my cousin Hugh, who is a teacher of English at Lawrenceville School, where I had attended. That's what I'd like to do. I asked him if I could come talk to him about careers in boarding schools. And he said, sure. And he said, what do you want to teach? And I said, art. And he said, in that case, I would offer you $2,200 a year. And I chuckled and said, 22,000 you mean? He said, no, I meant 2,200. We decided we should do what the college presidents are doing, hiring full-time fundraisers. You're a natural to do that with the training you've had in the advertising world. Blair Academy in New Jersey, a school I knew pretty well because Blair was a rival of Lawrenceville. And Barbara said, I don't want to live in New Jersey. I apologized profusely to Barbara and accepted the job. The most Blair Academy had ever raised in a year was $10,000. And in my first year, I raised $100,000. Not only did I get offers to come to other schools, but I had offers to come run other schools as a headmaster. And I thought, what a deal. I watched Jim Howard run the school beautifully, very well. I wasn't the intellectual that he was. And I realized Headmaster really needs to come off as being pretty well-educated person. And I just thought, well, bluff that. The worst thing that ever happened to me as headmaster of Millbrook School in Millbrook, New York, I had 5 suspicious fires in the course of 5 days. It was terrifying. The fire department stayed on our campus with their trucks, and they slept on the campus. And I slept downstairs on the couch because I dressed, because I knew there'd be a fire alarm any minute. That was a terrifying time. I wrote a letter about the fires. Bill Buckley. He was an alumnus of Millbrook School. And he wrote me a letter and complimented me on my ability to write, which was pretty nice coming from Bill Buckley. Talking about the 60s, and kids were very rebellious. In colleges, they were even taking over buildings with arms and holding deans and all sorts of horrible things going on. And the kids in boarding schools were not as difficult as they were in colleges, but they were difficult. They were hard times. And that's why I burned out. Barbara and I drove down to Florida. I hunted up a boat that we could live on and bought it while I went back to cold weather. And Barbara did, with 2 dogs. She lived at Burnt Store Marina, which is nearby. While I was a consultant, I had time on my hands, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun to write a novel? I met a young woman who was an editor. She called me up and said, well, we're going to buy your novel. And I thought, that was easy. About a month later, she called me back and said, I guess you've heard that our company's been sold. I said, no, I didn't know that. And she said, well, the bad news is that the new owners don't want to print your novel. Many years later, at a place I had retired to called Shell Point, I met a lady named Nancy Spencer, and she said, I want you to read your novel. And I read it, and I thought, you know, this isn't so bad. Named the hero Cooper Morgan. It's about a headmaster in the 60s. My book is a fictitious school in Connecticut called Essex Academy. I thought I should sketch out a campus, and I did that. And I am an artist, and I had so much fun sketching out the campus that I did it in ink And I had all these buildings to give names to, and I named them for lots of friends. Here's the headmaster's house, and it's called Chase House because it's named after Barbara's father. People have asked me, am I Cooper Morgan? I said, oh, no. Cooper Morgan's 3 inches taller than I am. I didn't think that I was capable of writing a novel. And not only that, but a really dandy story. And it's a feel-good novel. It's a very happy ending.
Coming up, we are going to replay some of the best stories from earlier this week on Shell Point Today. But before we do that, let's cover all of this weekend's happenings, menus, and church news.
Thank you for tuning in to the weekend edition of Happenings. And I'm here with Jill, and can you believe it is the last business day of August?
Wow, I can't believe it.
It has gone by really fast. So watch your mailbox this afternoon because your Shell Point Life will be delivered on Friday. 8:15 on Friday morning, the stamp ministry will be meeting in the stamp room in the tunnel. And from 8:30 to 11:30, Marketplace will take place in the administration courtyard. 9 a.m. men's round-robin doubles tennis will be played. And at 10 o'clock, you can try your hand at either canasta or samba in the game room at the Woodlands. 10:15 choices are inquiring minds in the Manatee room. And the Model Yacht Sailing Club meeting at the Commons Lake at the Woodlands. That wraps up Friday morning. Jill, take it away for Friday afternoon.
Thanks. At 12:30, Mixed Progressive Bridge is meeting in the game room at the Woodlands. At 1 o'clock, Technical Q&A with Brian Gainey will take place in the Grand Cypress. At 1:15, you have choices. There will be a Health Connections Osteoporosis in the Social Center. Also at 1:15 is Advanced Table Tennis in the Tarpon Room, and the Quilters will be meeting in the Osprey Room. At 1:30, Vespers will be meeting in the Community Room at the Arbor, and at 2 o'clock is Bid Euchre in the Sable Room. At 2:30, Vespers will be meeting again at the Community Room in King's Crown, and then at 3:30, Vespers will be meeting at the Springs. And we wrap up our Friday night with game night in the Resident Activity Center on the island. Mary, what's going on for Saturday?
We are going to start things off with a lot of fun. Pickleball at 8 a.m. Also at 8, round-robin doubles tennis. At 9:30, both the men's and the women's doubles will take to the tennis courts. 9:45, duplicate bridge will be played in the Manatee Room. And 1 o'clock, chess in the Library Lounge. 1:15, you can choose to play Scrabble in the Library Lounge or table tennis in the Tarpon Room. 3:15 is basic line dancing in the Health Club, and 6:30 is duplicate bridge in the Manatee Room. After that Saturday full of games, sporting events, cards, dancing, what happens on Sunday?
Well, Mary, at 9 o'clock, we'll meet for morning worship in the Grand Cypress Room. 11 o'clock, a second morning worship service takes place in the Grand Cypress Room, and we wrap up the day at 6:15 with the evening service in the Social Center. Well, that concludes our activities for the weekend. Don't forget, Monday is Labor Day, and the offices will be closed, so sign-up day will begin on Tuesday. We'll see you there bright and early. You have a great weekend.
Menus for your weekend. In the Crystal Room, the Crystal Platter on Friday is battered haddock with fries and sweet and sour cabbage. The dinner special is the seafood buffet for $15.95, and the soup of the day is cream of mushroom. In the Island Cafe for lunch on Friday, the special is a grilled meatloaf sandwich on rye with onion rings for $7.25. The dinner special is Chef's Choice for $8.25. Dinner specials in the Palm Grill on Friday are lamb chops for $22.95 or scallop scampi for $17.95. On Saturday, the Crystal Room is closed. In the Island Cafe for lunch on Saturday, the special is a Sloppy Joe with chips for $7.25. The dinner special is a stuffed bell pepper with mashed potatoes and green bean casserole for $8.25. The dinner special in the Palm Grill on Saturday is prime rib for $19.95. On Sunday, the Crystal Room features its Sunday brunch for $17.50. In the Island Cafe for lunch on Sunday, the special is a roast beef club with fresh fruit for $7.25. The dinner special is Chef's Choice for $8.25. And the Palm Grill is closed on Sundays. All menus are available 24 hours a day at www.shellpoint.net.
Hi, I'm Pastor Randy, and here it is, the weekend. Today I'm here with David Pavey, who's serving on staff with us as a resident. But David, can you believe it's the end of August, and here we are, ready to turn the calendar to September?
It's gone nowhere. It's gone fast.
It has. But to think, especially during this summertime with all the renovations, it's been a challenge with our schedules and our facility. But the privilege of continuing to worship together week after week as we meet on Sunday mornings in the Woodlands, Sunday nights here on the island. How have you found this transition to work for you personally?
Well, frankly, I've enjoyed it immensely because as people come and go for the two services, I've had lots of opportunity to get to know people in the church that I hadn't got to know personally before.
Yeah. I guess it's because you have two groups in the morning that are smaller, plus the walking from the parking lot up the stairs to the foyer, the elevator, and into the space creates an easy way to greet one another.
Yes, and then between the services we've been serving coffee lately and goodies, and some people have been able to mill around and get to know each other, so I sense there's been a lot of relationships being built this summer, which has been good. Yeah,
it's been very good. I've met new residents, and as you said, I got to talk with people that I don't always get to see because in the space of the church with so many always limitations. But this has afforded us a nice privilege for fellowship. But at the same time, as we've gathered in a new space, such as the Grand Cypress Room, our time of singing and prayer and fellowship, Bible study, the preaching of God's Word, have been very rich worship experiences.
Exactly, yes. We've lost nothing. In fact, because the group's a little smaller and the feeling's a little more intimate, I sense it's been a wonderful time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll look back with appreciation on this summer.
I think so. You see the church family, the community working together.
Right.
In a project like this. And there'll be other projects and work to do as we come back into the building. We're looking forward to being back in October, the first Sunday, for our services back in the sanctuary. But here through September, we want to invite you to come and be part of the worship Sunday morning, Sunday night, as we gather at the Woodlands on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock and 11. We'll continue that for the next several weeks. And then Sunday night here on the island in the Social Center at 6:15.
I must say a lot of planning went into making the change this summer, but it's worked well, and I'm just thrilled. I'm thrilled.
Well, we are grateful, and we're grateful for our church members and the residents, the folks in the community. And the other wonderful thing that has happened, the visitors who have come. So it's been very good.
And being at the Woodlands has brought a few people out of the apartments at the Woodlands to church on a Sunday morning.
It's convenient.
Who might not have come up here to the island.
Yeah. And vice versa, staying on the island in the evenings, folks who have been able to access that more easily.
Right.
Well, there are opportunities as we continue here the next few weeks before we come back to the church. If you haven't been part of the service, come join us Sunday. As we gather for worship, Pastor Andy will be preaching, continuing our studies in Hebrew Sunday morning at both the 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock service in the Woodlands. And then, that's the Grand Cypress Room of the Woodlands. And then Sunday night at 6:15 on the island at the Social Center. Well, thank you for joining me today, and thank you. We look forward to seeing you as we continue to worship together and grow as a church and community, worshiping our Lord. May God bless you. Have a great weekend. We'll look forward to seeing you soon.
And now we are going to replay some of the best stories from this week on Shell Point Today. In honor of our teachers and the back-to-school season, we featured a number of school-related stories, starting with a visit to Fort Myers Evangelical Christian School with Oakmont resident Bill Lanfer.
Don't know much about history, don't know much biology, don't know much about a science book, don't know much about the French I took, but I do know that I love you, and I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world is this. Allegiance to the flag of
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God.
It's the first rite of fall, but this year, when the school bells rang, the students of Evangelical Christian School were not the only ones heading back to class. Dr. Bill Lamfer, a resident of Oakmont and former president of Trinity College, also headed back to school, this time as the newly elected chairman of the board. Jim Stedke, the principal of the junior and senior high school at ECS, is looking forward to Bill's role as the chairman.
Well, I'm excited about Dr. Lamfer being the chairman of the board. He's a very hands-on person, and he doesn't take a responsibility lightly. So he's already done a lot of inquiring and investigating, and I'm excited about the fact that he will be very actively involved in a hands-on in improving the school. It will be of great help having been the president of 2 colleges and knowing what colleges want in high school students.
Evangelical Christian School was established more than 30 years ago and is located just off US 41, slightly south of Pagefield Airport. The school is comprised of a daycare and nursery school for children ages 4 months to 3 years old, a preschool and kindergarten for 4 and 5-year-olds, elementary school for grades 1st through 6th, junior high for grades 7th and 8th, and high school for grades 9th through 12th. The student body is comprised of more than 1,200 students. The school is known for its high scholastic standards.
We offer math all the way from Algebra 1 all the way through calculus, and science with the biology and chemistry and physics. We also offer some advanced placement courses. Some new courses that we're offering that we're excited about is we have a forensic science course this year. Also, we have a robotics computer programming class that we're excited about.
According to Dr. John Hunt, a graduate of the school and current headmaster, ECS stands firm on its Christian principles.
Anything done for Christ should be done with excellence for the best, just because it is a testimony in the community. And I think the key part of that are having the right people here. And I feel one of the things that makes ECS such a special place are the people here.
For Dr. Hunt, having a Shell Point resident as the chairman of the ECS school board brings a mature stability and the wisdom of experience to their decision-making process.
I came to the school about 7 years ago as a board member. I've been involved in education for over 20 years now, and 20 of those years have been in college work.
Dr. Lamfer has been in the field of education and administration his entire life, and this assignment brings him full circle.
The chairman of the board at ECS has the responsibility of setting the agenda for the board meetings and bringing to light things that the board should be meeting and satisfying. John and I have been meeting once a month and about an hour-and-a-half conversation about ECS's future and the current activities, current problems that we need to face together.
In addition to monitoring enrollment and the school's financial well-being, the board is responsible for overseeing planning and development for the school's future. Dr. Lamfer has taken great pride and pleasure in participating in the launch of a major new addition to the school's campus.
All the land that we presently need for this new fine arts building is already been obtained and we do own presently. And so that's going to be part of a lot of it parking, and then the building itself that will all be on the other side of the ditch over there. So our plans right now for the fine arts building are designed by our architect. It will be an auditorium that can seat over 1,500 people. It also will have not only that, but rooms for our fine arts to practice, soundproof rooms, which we desperately need on this campus. And not only that, but we'll have our library, we'll have an improved library, computer resources out there that will be there.
Well, this is no small task because this is a project approaching $16 million, and we've already got probably $2 or $3 million in land purchases.
New buildings are not the only area in which the board of directors and faculty focus their attention. Strong academic results will always be critical to student success.
We track them, and the statistics prove that the longer they're here at ECS, the better they do.
Clearly, the students of ECS are receiving an exemplary education right here in Southwest Florida and are being prepared for futures which look very bright indeed. And when it comes to community service and volunteering his time and talents, Shell Point resident Dr. Bill Lanfer is at the head of the class.
We also went to school with a cute little long-haired Chihuahua named Coco, who happens to be owned by Patrice Van Grossbeck of Lucina, a former teacher and speech pathologist.
I was the third grade teacher for a long time, 13 years, and then I was a speech language pathologist. And after I retired, I found out about the Reading to the Dog program. So I did some research online and found out about it and wanted to get into that. This is Coco, and she's a long-haired toy Chihuahua. She turned 5 in December. She's 3.5 pounds. And she has her certification now with Therapy Dogs Incorporated, and that's why we do what we do.
I'm April Tennyson, and I teach at Tanglewood Elementary. I love second grade because they're not babies anymore. They have a sense of humor. They can think outside the box a little bit. They're starting to expand on all the skills they learned in first grade. All the reading, the writing, math, and they're getting the aha moments. They're starting to read chapter books, and they're starting to understand more what they read. It's not about sounding out the words, it's about understanding. There are some that read really well, and there's some that are just now starting to catch on and go, oh yeah, I get it. The dog is like a buffer. If a child is embarrassed of their reading, or they're very shy, or they're not sure if they're reading, the dog doesn't criticize. The dog doesn't judge, the dog just sits and listens. Just another way for them to practice reading, and they get more comfortable. I've also seen kids who are really shy in general, who come out of their shells because of the dogs.
It does lower their blood pressure for reading, improving that. It makes it fun for them. Their absenteeism rate is lowered. They come to school, they become much more social. Some of them that came up in the beginning, were very shy. And now, certainly they're not as shy. And some of the reading has really improved for some of the kids. And as a matter of fact, April and I have talked about that. And there's this one particular girl who has really, she's just taken off.
There was one little girl, she was definitely afraid of dogs, very super shy at all, and ended up laying on the dog, reading out loud. She didn't care who heard her. And it was because of the dog. That was the only difference. So he helped build her confidence. And that's what it's all about.
When I came to school, I gave a little, just like 10 minutes, 15 minutes introducing Coco. And I got them to understand, just think, everything is bigger than you are. Think of it that way, because everything is bigger than she is. And I said she has 4 rules. You have to sit quietly, move slowly, talk softly, and touch gently. And then you'll be your friend. So they've been very good about that.
Trace is amazing. She really is. She's been a teacher, so she knows what to do. She's very patient. It's good to also have someone who comes in once a week, because they can really see the difference in the children. And I love the way Miss V does it, because at the end, Coco gets to sit on their lap, and it's a reward, and they get to feed her a little treat. And Trace is just patient, kind. She has it all. And so does Coco.
And when she falls asleep, sometimes I just tell them, she's closing her eyes because she can hear your story better, and she's so interested in your story, and she can concentrate better. And of course they believe it, so, Dogs are the magic of the program, because they don't criticize, they don't, look down on them. I really, really enjoy the kids and the children, and so that's why I wanted to get back into the classroom, and that's why, I did this, and it worked out well with Coco. Her purse, her bed. Well, she grew up in that. She was, she started in that when she was just a couple of months old. So to her, it's a security blanket. When I'm on the road in the summertime, you have to eat. If you're on the road, you have to eat. So, and obviously, you shouldn't take her into restaurants, but I do. But nobody knows she's there, and we go in and we go out, and nobody has any idea that she was even there. Quiet, and she's very good, aren't you?
John Moore had quite an adventurous career in academia. Here is his story.
I was born in North Dakota, in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and lived there until I was about 3, and then we moved to Montana, then to Denver, and then to Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I finished high school, and went from there to the University of Michigan for my my undergraduate degree in chemical engineering and an MBA. And then I went out to work and went to work for Procter & Gamble in Cincinnati, where after about almost 4 years, I met my wife a little over 50 years ago. And then the itch hit me to go back to school. So I went to the University of Virginia and did a PhD in economics there. And then stayed at the University of Virginia on the faculty for 11 years. And then started my wandering around the country. I was associate director of something called the Law and Economics Center at the University of Miami. And the center then moved to Emory University and moved out west to Stanford University in Palo Alto, where I was associate director of the Hoover Institution, 1982, at the height of the Cold War. And we got involved with some exchange operation that was going to the Soviet Union. That was the days when the hotels had floor ladies in them that would keep your key, but were also keeping a watch on you. It was a very different place. So they took us there for some reason to see this dam, so-called Bratsk Dam, that is well known, built with slave labor. So telling a lot of details about its capacity, how many generators they were, et cetera, et cetera. And then afterwards, they took us up to a little overlook where we could look down on the dam. Now this dam, of course, had been photographed, I'm sure, hundreds of times from the air by satellites, by probably U-2s, who knows. And there we were looking over, and there's a little sign that says, "No photographs." That's just an example of the kind of attitude that they were trying to intimidate everybody who came there. And in those days, it really was a pretty closed society. Then I was appointed to be deputy director of the National Science Foundation by President Reagan. And so we moved to Washington, D.C. The NSF is one of the less political agencies in town. It's really quite objective in what it does. It ranges over the whole spectrum, from physics to astronomy to mathematics to biology to engineering. Covers the whole map. And as number 2 in the agency, I got involved with essentially all of them, one way or another. It involved contacts with people from all over the world and working on treaties between the United States, science and technology treaties between the United States and Japan and China and India. I must say among the highlights of our time there were the senior executive meetings the president would have from time to time, where all of the political appointees were invited, and we could go to these meetings and listen to him talk and tell jokes. Those were real highlights. Sue got to go to some of those too. She actually, I should say, she worked as a volunteer in Mrs. Reagan's press office for about 4 years. She'd go down once a week, spend basically all day in East Wing of the White House, and had a lot of contact with Mrs. Reagan, actually. She had more FaceTime with the top than I did. Another interesting thing about NSF is that it runs the U.S. Antarctic program. The Antarctic Treaty reserves the use of the continent for scientific research. Exciting work, it's difficult work, it's dangerous work. A lot of very interesting people working in that one. I remember one time I met a woman who was, actually I met her in Antarctica. She was from Ohio State University, and she was one of these people who drills ice cores and get evidence about what the climate was like thousands of years ago by analyzing the chemical content of the ice cores. So she was there, we saw her cores. She had this whole bunch of cores stored in, you didn't have to refrigerate, you just left them outside someplace, and they kept perfectly well. But I asked her, what happens if they melt? And of course the answer is, we got to be very careful about getting them back. And so they fly them back in refrigerated airplanes to Columbus, Ohio, where they had, of course, a refrigerated facility to take them, and then they'd analyze them back in Columbus. Then I got recruited by Grove City College and went to Grove City College in 1996 as president, which is a terrific experience for both of us. It's quite a contrast. I'd never been at a small institution. I'd always been in large schools. Grove City College had 2,200 students when I got there. It was situated in a very small town, and we'd never lived in a small town in our married lives. It turned out to be a fantastic place to be for 7 years. Great students, wonderful atmosphere, wonderful Christian atmosphere. The curriculum was rigorous. Stayed there for 7 years. Retired in 2003. Because we moved around so much when I was a kid, I thought that was the way you lived. You just moved around. And I always did want to travel. And Sue always had a strong yen for travel. So we really meshed on that as on many other things. And so we've done a lot of traveling. The most interesting one was the one that she and I made to Antarctica and to the southern polar regions. That was a great trip and quite an adventure. Another one was a birding trip we made up the Tambopata River in Peru, which is a tributary to the Amazon. And we were in a motorized canoe going up this river at one point we spent all day, 8 hours, sitting in this little canoe riding up that river. And I tell you, there's very little civilization around there. If you look down here, you'll see some photo albums. We do take a lot of pictures when we're out on the road. Been doing, I guess, more and more since I've been here, and I joined the photo club, which has been very, very good. It's very helpful to go to the meetings and have people tell you what's good about your pictures and what's bad about your pictures, and so you can try to improve. So I've enjoyed that part, and I was very surprised that my pictures got any kind of recognition, I must say, but very pleased about it. Because I was running that college, we used to have a lot of alumni meetings down here because that's where you go in the wintertime to raise money. And so we'd come down here. And so we did a lot of investigation. And in the end, this was head and shoulders above anything else we saw. So we came here. We've not regretted it for a second. It gets better all the time, actually.
Carol Ashley of Coquina is a teacher who kept on in the classroom even after moving to Shell Point. She shared a few of her stories with us.
I'm a graduate of Indiana University, the education department. Probably I started teaching when I had a wonderful first grade teacher. She influenced me so many times, and I still remember her after all these years. First teaching job was first grade in Portage, Indiana. I taught mostly first grade, some second grade, and fourth grade gifted classes, fifth grade junior grade books discussion classes in Indiana. My first class was 31 students. I had no teaching assistant, and it was wonderful. The faster children helped the slower children, And I have one wonderful memory of a little boy we'll call Billy. Billy was a first grader who had much difficulty with his behavior, controlling his behavior. We had tried everything. His parents tried to help, stickers, stars, behavior modification programs, nothing seemed to work. Until one day we were all seated on the floor in our sharing time. One of the students said, "We need to help Billy make some changes." So I acted upon that suggestion. I stood Billy before me. I said, "Billy, today we're going to remove the old Billy. We're going to take off," I pretended I was down by his shoes. "We're taking off the old Billy, the one that wants to fight and get into trouble and disobey, and we're placing him in the waste paper basket." And then I immediately picked up the new Billy. Billy held his hands up so I could put the new Billy on him. All of his classmates thought that was the most wonderful thing. They bought into that power of suggestion. And Billy did too. He absolutely tried to become a model student. 21 years later, I'm shopping in Winn-Dixie here in Fort Myers. I see this handsome young man walking towards me. He picks me up, he throws me in the air, and he says, "Mrs. Ashley, do you remember me? I'm Billy that you helped turn over a new leaf 21 years ago in first grade in Portage, Indiana." Wonderful young man. What a nice surprise. I taught for 20 years in Indiana. Then I moved to Florida to retire, but could not retire. The first day of school, the first year of my retirement, 1974, I saw the school bus, first day of school, and I had to go to school. So I visited my neighborhood school, which was Gateway, and they immediately found out that I was a teacher and asked me to substitute. I became a substitute until they offered me a maternity leave and then a sick leave. Then I went full-time. So I have another 15 years experience here in Lee County. Part-time in retirement, I taught here in Lee County, of course, which is vastly different than what I had in a small town community school. We only had 300 children in that school I just told you about. Here in Lee County, there are thousands, 1,200 students in the schools. And also, I was asked to do a maternity leave for special ed students, special needs students. So I found that interesting here and a new way to spend my retirement years. All my students have inspired me in so many ways. We always had reading contests through the summer, and they inspired me to read as much as they did, and some of them could read more than I did. Of course, their books were smaller than mine, but they're such inspiring students no matter what. Now that I'm at Shell Point, in fact, I just received a call from Gateway Elementary last Tuesday asking me to return. They still need many teachers here in Lee County. But I told them no, I declined because I'm no longer teaching 6- and 7-year-olds. I'm now teaching 90- and 100-year-olds. And it's just the same, actually. They're a little bit taller, a little bit fatter. But they say and do the same things, both the 6- and 7-year-olds and the 90- and 100-year-olds. Right now I'm teaching chair dancing at the assisted living. I will begin in October with my ballroom line dancing class, and we are beginning a brand new Latin size class, which will be Latin dance steps combined with fitness music. In other words, we'll be dancing and exercising.
We hit the street to ask Shell Point residents and staff members to share a story or two about their school days.
When I was in the 4th grade, I had to change schools because my school was too crowded, and I moved to another school, didn't know anybody. And my 5th grade teacher was very special. When it was a small school, we had no really gym room at all. So when it rained, she read to us. And I used to pray for rain because I loved to hear her read. And so we read through Silas Marner and many of the classics. She was my favorite teacher.
By the time I went back to college, I knew what I wanted to study, so it was rather kind of easy for me. It just was a matter of trying to work out my curriculum. But college was a process of 4 different colleges and universities. I think it was very good. It's helpful for me as an individual, and as I look back, yeah, I think it was very good. I got a lot of different perspectives, sometimes on the same area, although it was a different course, but the area was the same, and there was some different perspectives, so I thought it was quite good. My advice would be to be sure you know what you're wanting to do, because you could end up at the end of your college experience with a large debt, and if you're going through to be an accountant and you decide you don't like numbers, you're still going to have that major debt to have to deal with for possibly the rest of your life.
I had a 9th grade woodworking class, and I loved it. One problem, they wouldn't let us use any power tools. So coming here to Shell Point and finding all these power tools, like a kid in the candy store.
I remember when I was in cosmetology school, another student, now this was not me, but they did some foiling highlights, and when they took it out and rinsed her hair and shampooed it all, about an hour and a half later, this young girl ran her fingers through her hair and there was all bleach still in her hair. And as she pulled her hand out came her hair. Was not a good story. Major blunder.
The fashions at the time were 4 petticoats under a full skirt and saddle shoes and bobby socks. And I think now, what were we thinking?
One teacher I liked real well in the 9th grade, his name was Black. I don't remember his first name, but I really liked him. He was forthright. He controlled the class, and the students respected him. I remember one time I was assigned to take the temperature and humidity toward the afternoon and record it. And I remember that occasion and this teacher.
When I first got to high school, after I'd left the grammar school, and we had to go from room to room for each different class. And I had this terrible fear that I wouldn't be able to find the class in time. We had a certain length of time between classes. And I used to have dreams at night where I was trying to run and find my classroom, and it was terrible. It lasted for quite a few years, and then finally it disappeared. Now I'm not afraid of anything.
Well, I had a geometry teacher that I really, really loved, and she followed a teacher that I didn't particularly like, so it was a happy time to be in her class, yeah.
When I went to school, we had to walk about a mile and a quarter each way, and it seemed like it was uphill. It was through the woods, and in the wintertime, it was fiercely cold, and we didn't have very good clothing in those days. It seemed like we were walking barefoot in the snow. We did have boots, but they weren't much. Got home, we were pretty cold, and we were anxious to get home because then we could listen to The Lone Ranger on radio.
I never liked school very much, and then I was ready to go to art school. The Germans, we were occupying us by then, closed all higher school teaching, So I finally, when I was in England, I like to do something about it. So I went to Polytechnic so I could really go and paint and follow the art and design, because I couldn't do it in our country.
So when I was a junior in high school, somebody bet us that we couldn't take a motorcycle down the hallways into school. So by putting various friends at doors and exits and checking down a hallway for teachers, we took the motorcycle down a hallway several times. Somebody opened the door, we exited the door and went down the road.
As I think back on school and my life, I think of something I read recently. Thanks for everything. I had a wonderful time.
Ruth Duber and her daughter gave us a lesson in preparing a light summer meal of salmon.
Hello, I'm Ruth Duber, and this is what's cooking at Shelf Point.
And this is a special day for me. I have my youngest daughter, Jane, here from California, and she's going to cook with me. And what's really interesting is she is going to make something that I don't particularly like, which is
what a great idea.
Which is different. I think I'm the only person in the world that doesn't like salmon, although I found out that Adam doesn't like it either. So, but so many people do enjoy salmon, and I was able to get some Kita salmon at Publix early this morning. They didn't even have the cases filled, so it's nice and fresh.
It's nice and fresh, and it's so good for you.
I know it is.
You know, in California, we really try and make sure what we're putting in our bodies is really fueling us. So lots of omegas, lots of great things for you. So, we're going to fix something really healthy and delicious, and we're going to have fun doing it.
Alrighty, okay.
So shall we begin?
This
is so crazy because she's allowing me the freedom to be in the kitchen, but in our house, Mama's the queen of the kitchen. So we'll start with just a beautiful piece of salmon. Look at that. And we need to make sure that it's just enough for portion size. And so we're going to actually cut this in half. Let's see here. And about a half. This will be like one bigger one, one little one. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually put it in aluminum foil. We're going to bake it. And the reason this is important is because it allows the fish to stay nice and moist, has all the great juices while it's cooking. We're going to put it in the oven. Sometimes in California, though, I actually put it in the grill. So there's a couple different ways. At Shell Point. And I keep it really very simple. So I use just a little bit of salt and pepper, not too much because we don't need too much salt. This is sea salt that's been ground immediately, and then we have pepper. And I love the fact that
do you want to use a lemon pepper too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're going to do a little bit of the pepper too, just to make it spicy. I know sometimes you like it a little less spicy, but you get to do whatever it is you want to do with this. It's impossible to mess this up. And then Mom has some lemon pepper blend. So this has got a little bit of lemon zest.
And there's only a little bit left.
I know. You've been using it a lot. I could tell.
I know. I do.
Let's see if we can get some. There we go. There. So the cool thing is I like foolproof cooking. So we're going to do the lemon slices, and actually this is what keeps it moist when you're cooking. So we have just a couple here. It's so fun. Everything's all laid out. I wish this was like home. I wish this is how it was every night at home, right?
Yeah.
This way? Okay. So what we're doing is we're gonna actually take this and we're gonna fold it over, and the idea is to have it so that it's super, super tight. We're keeping the steam inside, so as it's baking, it actually makes the fish super moist, keeps all the flavors inside. There's a super easy cleanup, actually, because you don't have to clean a pot, you don't have to clean a dish, you just throw it away once you're done. So there you are, voila.
As far as what you put on the salmon, you can put some capers on it. You can slice some tomatoes on it, and just about anything you really want. And that works well.
We're going to make a special sauce, right, today?
Yes. Oh, she has her own vinaigrette that is just really delicious. You want to put that in the oven? It's on and ready.
Perfect. There we go. Now, I didn't even know I was going to be on the show, but I actually travel with something called a magic bullet. And this is a really super cool tool that I travel a lot, and I try and eat healthy, and so this is what I bring with me. So we have lemon juice, and the lemon juice is freshly squeezed, and that's about 1/4 cup of lemon juice, and so we're going to put that in first. Super yummy, and this can go on anything, any kind of fish. We also put it on chicken. Next we're going to put some garlic. This is about 2 cloves of garlic. And Mom and I were talking, sometimes you can use the kind of garlic that's already chopped up and in a jar, and I like to use that sometimes when I'm in a hurry when I'm cooking with the actual garlic. But if I'm going to use it in a sauce that doesn't get cooked, I like to use the fresh garlic because it has a different flavor to it. This is lemon zest, so make sure you wash your lemons before you do the zesting. That's about 2 teaspoons of the lemon zest. And then we have cilantro. And anything that's dark green is really healthy for you. So this is a sauce that turns out to be not only delicious, but it's super good for you because it has the cilantro in there. And then lastly, some really good extra virgin olive oil. Mom uses a nice clean light olive oil in there. So we're gonna pour that all in. And then with this groovy little thing,
You're going to do a little more salt and pepper?
Should we do a little
that?
more?
Well, it's on your recipe.
Oh. That's right. Mom always follows the recipe. That's why she cooks so well. Okay, how's that, Mama?
That's okay.
Okay,
pretty
good.
Try a little bit of salt.
It was funny, I have to tell you, in preparation today, Mom was actually asking me about how big the foil should be, and at one point I just had to laugh because I've learned from her my whole life, so the fact that she was asking me this morning was pretty cute. So with this little handy device, you simply just take the blender part and you scroll it on the top here. You're going to shake it up a little bit to get everything going, and you're going to, there we go. Give it a little shake. There you go. All done. Isn't that fun?
That's amazing.
Now, I usually do smoothies and things. I'm not used to having garlic and cilantro and
We better
all
wash
in
that
here.
pretty well
That's
before
right,
you take
that's
it.
right. So I think we're going to just pour it in here. And so what we'll do, Mom, is as the fish is done, we'll be able then to just spoon that on top of it. It's light. It's delicious. Good for you.
It looks
What
really
else can you
pretty,
ask
yeah.
for?
So these have come out of the oven,
Yay.
ready to unveil what's inside.
Yeah, it's like a package, a surprise package. We hope it's a good surprise, right?
We hope. Yeah.
Look at that. You can see the steam rising out, which means it's nice and juicy. Just enough spices. We'll do a little sauce. Let's put this over here. Look at that. Yummy. I guess I'm going to have to be tasting this, Mom, huh? Lots of lemon sauce. If I was super talented, I would do something fancy with the dish, but we're just going to put it on the fish. Bit of lemon zest.
I've always loved Stouffer's mac and cheese, but it comes in a big package. I found in the freezer department these little cups, and it takes about 3 minutes in the microwave.
Yay.
And you get your mac and cheese fix.
That's comfort food, right?
It's comfort food.
Oh my gosh. I promise you it's delicious, even if she doesn't try it. Okay, we're gonna take a little piece here. Let's get a little extra sauce here, because I'm a sauce girl. Here it goes.
You loving that?
Mom, you don't know what you're missing.
Okay.
I'm telling
all
you.
I'll put it up on the website anyway, so you all can try it.
Thank you so much. It was
Yeah.
fun to cook with
Thank
you,
you,
Mama.
Janie. Bye-bye.
Yay.
Well, that's it for this week on Shell Point Today. We're glad you joined us for the program. Tune in again next week for more stories and news from around your community. Until then, this is Shell Point Today for the weekend of August 29th, 30th, and 31st. I'm Rochelle Chernowski, and from all of us here at Shell Point TV, we hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday.